when I saw that, oh, this is it. Okay. Anyhow, welcome to channel 36, and here we are with Jacqueline Culthurst.
Culthurst, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's a crystal healer, and it's a pleasure having her on the show. We were just talking, and she has so much to talk about, and crystal healing is so fascinating, and a lot of people don't believe in it, but I believe in it, and we respect people's feelings. But anyhow, Jacqueline, you told me you started this when you were 13 years old, right?
Yes, indeed. Started very young. My father is a Qigong practitioner.
Right.
And Qigong is a Chinese energy type of healing practice.
Okay.
So my brother and I were actually very highly dyslexic when we were growing up. So we had a lot of anxiety problems. We had a lot of learning difficulties in school. So he kind of taught us these exercises and skills to kind of cope, basically. At 13, I had a very unique biology teacher who taught at my secondary school. And she taught
And what
Reiki.
did she look like? You told me.
She had short-cut purple hair, dark purple hair. She had piercings all over her ears. She had crystals all over the place. And one biology class, she actually spent the entire time talking about crystals and their vibrational frequencies.
Did that fascinate you?
Yes, absolutely.
As a child?
Absolutely. But what fascinated me about her the most is that she's a scientist as well as a healer. And that is really, really, even today, that's very prevalent for me to always talk about the science behind what the things we're doing.
Okay, so a lot of crystal healers are scientists. I would say they are.
Kind of, yeah. Well, the first laser ever created was actually using rubies. A ruby was actually the facet that they used to actually concentrate the light energy through a ruby to create a laser beam. Yeah. Lots of quartz crystals are used with watches. That's a very famous thing to use in science as well.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, the quartz and energy that comes out. And like we were saying, the body is so powerful. People don't know how powerful it is. And we have to learn how to direct these powers.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And we can if we concentrate on know what we're doing.
Right.
And
well, that's where the power of intention comes in. That's very popular right now and so on and so forth. But the key thing to also know about the body is that we vibrate too. Molecules vibrate, which creates electromagnetic fields. Electromagnetic fields create our sensory things.
Right.
And our bodies are really smart because when our molecules aren't healthy in any way, stress or physical condition, let's say I have a heart problem, my molecules aren't going to be vibrating at a healthy, optimal speed. So our frequency changes at that part of our body, and you can actually use scientific equipment to measure the frequency and hertz, very specifically, of what that frequency is.
God, it's so amazing.
It is really amazing what they're finding out. A lot of studies were done in the 60s, but we're having like another resurgence of this kind of research being done in today's world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you heal, there's certain stones that you would use that are more healing than the others. Some stones are healing. Some are what? Relaxing stones?
Yeah. So crystals are very interesting to us as healers because they also have an electromagnetic field that vibrates. There was actually one time questionable whether a stone or a crystal could actually be defined as a solid or liquid because of their vibrational frequency. So depending on the type of stone, so we have rose quartz, amethyst, citrines, clear quartz crystals. Those are probably the most common crystals you're going to find.
How about the white quartz? What is
clear quartz? Clear quartz, white quartz, whatever you want to call it. White quartz is a concentration kind of stone, and it's very, very popular. Actually, LCD screens actually use particleized clear quartz crystals to be able to use LCDs. Clear quartz is used for concentration of energy. So when you shoot light through it, it actually usually concentrates energy or it can disperse energy depending on how you hit it. So I'm sure you've seen this science experiment from high school where it's a diagram of a prism, usually made of a quartz crystal.
I remember
that. You shoot white light in it and the rainbow's coming out the other side.
Yeah.
That's the exact same concept of a clear quartz crystal, right? It concentrates as well as disperses depending on what you're trying to do with it.
Okay, there's something I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You work at this.
Yes.
Now, can you do this for yourself if you need healing?
Yes.
Or do you have another crystal healer come in and attend to your needs? Or can you do this by yourself? Explain that to me.
You can do this for yourself, but you're also your best blinder, right? We grow up with self-defense mechanisms we develop over the years and times, and we are really great at blinding ourselves at things that we don't necessarily want to look at. You have to be very honest with yourself if you want to heal yourself. It's not impossible. It just takes a lot of work. So it is common practice that if you are a healer, you would probably have other healers that you go to. And yes, indeed, I do have other healers I go to, but I do have a daily practice of my own that I do every day. And in fact, I refuse to see people between sessions. I usually take like an hour off in between people just for my own healing.
Yeah, because that takes a lot out of you.
It takes a lot of time.
Right.
I mean, if you're channeling energy from outside, so Reiki is from a concept that we're channeling energy from the outside into us and into somebody else. That's a constant flow that you have to maintain. So you shouldn't be feeling tired afterwards, right?
But as you're taking that energy in,
yeah,
you have to feel some exhaustion as you're
depends
taking
on how
it
long
in.
you do it for, because it's the concentration that exhausts you. It's not actually the channeling of energy, it's the concentration that exhausts you first.
Okay, now your
So,
hands, when
yes.
you put your hands over, I saw this in a movie once.
Yeah.
They said they felt heat coming from the hand.
Yes.
Is there heat actually, like if you're healing a part of the body, is there heat coming from the hand?
That is an excellent question. So, yes and no. There was a study done in the 60s, and Barbara Brennan writes this book in one of her books. I think it's Light Emerging. She writes about this book. It was a scientific experiment done where they attached nodes to the skin to register temperature, and they attached nodes to the head to register brain activity.
Okay.
They had like 100 healers, a shaman, a Reiki healer, like you name it, whatever kind of hands-on healing practice they had a representative for that. Everyone went to this person and did a healing, and she would say, wow, I can feel incredible heat from your hands while doing this. But when they look at the computer, her skin temperature never actually changes, but her brain registers the heat.
Wow,
So
how interesting
it's a very interesting thing, because everybody really interprets energy very differently, and how you interpret it is not just heat is a very generic kind of a description. Sometimes it's fuzzy, sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's what do you call it? Gooey. Sometimes it has very different textures and sensations to it depending on how you're reacting to it.
Okay, now while you're doing this, do you ask the person while you're healing?
Yeah.
Do you feel anything? Do you feel better, or do you maintain silence all the way through?
So this is the first thing I say to my clients, because usually they're coming to this brand new. Yeah. They've never had experienced this before. So I'm very aware I'm a stranger. I know that it's kind of weird. Yeah. So if they want to keep their eyes open, if they want to tell me whatever is happening in that moment, please do, and don't feel like you have to hold it in. But if you feel comfortable enough with me to close your eyes and take a deep breath and just really relax into it, that's even better, because it opens their energy better to me. Like I feel a flow better in their body. And also times when they're nervous, their energy gets really clunky
because
and really
you're kind of
stuck.
nervous to do something like that, because for the first time
always.
Yeah,
always for
it's
the
hard
first
to
time.
relax for some people.
Yeah.
Do you play nice meditation
I play nice music, but music's interesting too. So I sometimes ask my clients, is this music okay for you? Because some people get driven crazy by spa music. They'd rather rock music. Okay, so we will play rock music.
Rock music? What, for something like that?
People relax in very different ways.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And some people do find classical music, it drives them crazy. So if that's going to drive you crazy for a whole hour, I'm not going to do that to you.
Okay. Now, how about the smell? Do you have certain
scents
in the room? Do you
I do have
them?
scents. I have an intake form, and I have to ask them about senses and smells, because some people are very allergic to certain smells. Like we were talking about lavender.
Lavender, we were talking about. She was telling us about lavender. Yeah. And what were we saying about the lavender?
Lavender is actually antifungal and antibacterial, which is very interesting, and it's also great for headaches, for migraines. There are lots of healing properties.
That's why they tell you to say lavender baths.
Yes, exactly. Lavender lavender baths are wonderful, but some people are highly allergic to lavender. If they even smell it, they
start... can't be allergic, but they say it takes the toxins out of the water.
Some people are very high, like they'll burn from it. Like that's how allergic some people are. So I have to ask people if they're allergic to any smells or sensations. Otherwise,
you could burn?
You can burn from it, absolutely. You can rash and burn from lavender if you're allergic to it. So they have to be very sensitive to be at that state. But that being said, usually I keep my office pretty sense-free, just in case, because if they are very sensitive to smells and things, I have to be very careful.
Right.
But if they're okay with it, what I usually do at the end of a session is like dab a little lavender or sandalwood or something very pleasant. Sage is another favorite of mine.
Sandalwood's such a nice smell.
It is a really nice smell. I'll dab a little bit on my hands, and then so their last few breaths at the end of the session, they breathe in that nice smell to really finesse that energy into it and really get it into their lungs.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
She was telling me she didn't come to the United States until she was 18 years of age. And her father taught her all of this. And I asked her, does she speak the language Japanese? She was telling me about Cantonese and Mandarin. I said, oh my goodness gracious, all these slangs and everything like that. So, but that's where she got her basis. And I said, why don't they work on this in Japan so much? But she said they come over from Japan and they come here to work.
Well, Japanese, that's true and not true. Japanese people have a very, very old tradition of Reiki to do this, and they still do it to this day. But contemporary world, it's not the most popular thing to do. A lot of, especially in Hong Kong, especially in Tokyo, Japan, not necessarily countryside, but Tokyo, Japan, Asian culture is very specific. They want you to be a doctor. They want you to be a lawyer. They want you to have a career in this. So these kind of practices are considered very old-fashioned,
like you said, very conservative.
They're very conservative in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and she said you can't wear what she has on now. She said she can never wear.
This is considered low cut. This is considered very low cut for Hong Kong.
She said no way, and that's low cut to them.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, this is considered a little low cut. My mom would be okay. But this is actually my mom's top. This would be okay, but it's emphasizing my cleavage area, so not probably the best thing to wear out and about. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's with some of the other countries too, in the other world too.
Tokyo is much more relaxed. Tokyo is definitely much more relaxed in their fashion. And fashion in Tokyo, they got the very elaborate hair colors.
Oh yeah, when they come here, they buy all of our designs and everything like that.
They're very, very unique with their fashion over there.
So I did ask her, getting back to the age when she started this at 13, whether how fulfilling and was she excited about it at that age?
Yeah.
And she said, you were.
I was. I've always been fascinated with this kind of field, ever since I was a little girl. Yes, it totally...
That's because of what your father did.
And also it totally has to do with the fact that as a kid, I believed in magic, and I still do to this day. So it fits perfectly to my childhood beliefs as what I believe as an adult. Like, I don't see any difference between magic and energy healing and science as to what I'm doing now. Like, I think they all have a different language, but talking about the same thing. So that's really what I believe in.
Okay. Do you have any brothers or sisters that do this?
I have a younger brother. He is only a year younger. He's actually a certified yoga teacher.
Okay.
He's much more business orientated. He actually works in agricultural development and technologies. And he's an investment banker, blah, blah, blah. And he just actually moved to the States a year ago. So he's even fresher than I am. Growing up, he kind of moved away from it. He became a basketball player. He was a jock. You know, he was really serious about like developing his athletic abilities. He was very serious about economics and business. So not so much as me. But now that he's a little older, he just turned 30. He's actually coming back into this and really taking yoga very seriously, his meditation very seriously. He asks me to bead together some crystal beads for him that he can use at work, or something that he can pray with, like his
like a rosary beads. Thing, and
they're
hold them
mala
and
beads.
Mala
like
beads. Buddha beads.
So,
they have
the
them
Buddha
like
beads.
that.
Yeah. So
okay.
he asked me to make Buddha beads for him, things like, and I place like an amethyst crystal right next to his bed so he can sleep well. You know, those kind of things.
Oh, like I said, if I had all the money in the world, my whole place would be loaded with crystals and quartzes.
Mine is
my
slowly
God.
but surely becoming that way.
Oh.
I unfortunately got a reseller's license in crystals. So I get the wholesale price and my house is filled with them, but I have to move
My
the
daughter
inventory.
has it in her place
I have to
too.
move the inventory eventually. So
Does feng shui
Yeah.
go with crystals? Because my
Yeah,
daughter
very
did
much.
feng shui and
Totally.
crystals in her place
Yes,
all over.
very, very much. So the concept of feng shui is just movement and flow of energy in a room versus your body. So they believe the environment you're surrounding yourself with is about the energy flow of a place.
And keep flowing.
So-
Don't block the energy in your place.
Yes, exactly.
Keep it flowing through. Nothing in front of. If you have a big window, don't put furniture in front of it. Don't block it.
Yes, you want the flow.
Keep it open, and
You
that
want
makes
the flow.
sense,
Yes,
doesn't it?
absolutely. Yeah, but I think anybody who has common sense can feel it. They can feel the openness. Oh, this room makes me
I do.
breathe so well.
Because I
right?
believe in all of this.
Yes,
This
exactly.
is the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have to believe in this.
Believe in using your own intuition. You were born with these senses. Your body is very smart. It will tell you when it doesn't like something, and there's a reason for that.
Well, we are our own directors.
Yes.
We could say yay or nay.
Yes,
And
indeed.
sometimes it's difficult. So
Yes.
we're going back and forth, back and forth. You did use the word, I like it. I looked it over. I said, is this a misprint? But it had dis-ease.
That's a very popular way of phrase. I wish I could claim to that phrasing, but it's not my claiming.
I like that.
It is. So ease is the state of perfect health, right? Ease of energy, ease of body, mind, and spirit, right?
Yeah.
Dis-ease is of an upset of your ease.
Imbalance.
An imbalance of your ease, yeah. And the root of the word disease from Latin is actually exactly dissected like that. Dis is the discomfort of the ease, right? Yeah.
So you work when your body is like an imbalance. Say someone has an imbalance of the body, like you could heal for that.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. But imbalance can be so many different things, and it's very
Say if
unique
it comes
to
from
everyone.
a lot comes from people with vertigo,
Sure. Yeah.
where you get that, and
Yeah.
like I have a friend like that. I have a lot of friends, but one particular
Sure.
that is an imbalance. She doesn't have vertigo, but I think it comes from the inner ear.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And that stems again from the nerves and the spinal cord all the
Absolutely.
way down.
Right. So it's also a type of inflammation of the nerves too, which is why it's irritated, which is why they lose their balance, right? And we're looking at, yes, the ears, yes, the nerves, the back of the head, as well as the front. So a lot of people forget that you're a whole being. You have to look at the front as well as the sides, as well as the back. And the easing of the energy flow in those areas to ease the vertigo, right? I've actually treated a vertigo client as well. It took a few times because there was a reason why she was being inflamed or having a dis-ease in those areas in particular as well.
That's so dangerous. I mean, you could
Yeah.
be out and then your head is spinning around and around.
Well, and also it's also an endless cycle because you have the vertigo, which happens, which affects your lifestyle, right? You can't really leave the house unless you're escorted by someone.
Right.
You are terrified that this could happen at any time, and the stress that's caused from being terrified makes your nerves worse. So it's an endless cycle. You get scared, and then the vertigo happens. You get scared, and the vertigo happens, and then it goes on and on and on and on. So how do we ease that cycle so that they're not scared enough to actually cause that stress, to then ease into it so that the energy flow can let go and flow again so that they no longer have it? Now, this is not replacing Western medicine by any means. Some people really do have nerves that are so fried or cut in a certain way that they lose it permanently. It's true. That definitely would, you would definitely have to probably see a Western doctor to really diagnose those kind of things. So, but there is a holistic practice that does address that in terms of easing the energy flow to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have several things. I looked at your website. I saw the one with healing that caught me. And what are the other divisions you mentioned?
Okay. So I am a crystal healer, yes. I'm a Reiki practitioner, but I also have Holy Fire 2 healing certification,
What
which
is that?
very new.
Holy Fire 2. This is new to me.
So Holy Fire Reiki is brand new, spick span new. It was created, well, I shouldn't say created, it was a transmission received by William Lee Rand in 2014. And William Lee Rand is probably one of the most well-known Reiki practitioners out in today's world. He is the director of the ICRT Institute, that's International Center for Reiki Training. It's the largest organization representing Reiki healers all across the United States and around the world.
Okay.
We have people.
Excuse me, I want to ask you before you go on.
Sure.
Reiki,
Yes.
is that the name of the person that started? But what is the meaning of Reiki?
Reiki
too?
is.
I wanted to ask you that.
Reiki is a Japanese word translating meaning universal energy.
Okay. All
So,
right.
you are not wrong by asking, is it a name? Because the type of Reiki we do, or most of the people who practice Reiki here in the United States are from a lineage called Usui Reiki. So that's also another certification that I have. Usui Reiki, Usui is actually the name of the creator of that particular type of Reiki. He's 1940s. 1940s. So not too old. He discovered the use of Reiki healing and became very, very famous throughout all of Japan, even created a holistic center of his own for Reiki healing in Tokyo, Japan, especially during World War II. He got very, very famous because of his unique abilities to just use his hands to heal the impossible. He cured cancer. He cured this and that.
Oh my
right?
goodness gracious.
So because of his popularity, he gained a lot of students. One of them is Hayashi. Hayashi continued his lineage, who then taught a Japanese-American woman who brought it to Hawaii. Then from
Hawaii does
all the way to the United States. So a lot of people practice Usui Reiki. That's the lineage. Sorry, it's kind of a convoluted tree there, but that's the lineage that most American practitioners come from, is from the Usui Reiki branch.
Okay.
But back to Holy Fire.
Right. That's what I was going to...
William received this transmission in 2014, and the belief being that energy is evolving just as much as humans are, right? The energy that is floating around in the universe right now is not the same as what it was when we were created as human beings, when this planet was formed, so on and so forth. And because it's continuously evolving, we have to address it in a very different kind of a way. And this new practice is really emphasizing the removal of the self-ego of the practitioner when conducting practices with a client. So we're very, very careful about not having the session being influenced by what's going on with us personally. So say I had a bad day.
Boy, that's good mental control. You have
very good mental control.
That's
and it's
hard.
also raising an awareness of diluting the energy to that other person, because you had all of this negative energy yourself throughout that day.
That's only natural, right?
And transmitting it to somebody else. So, and going back to my self-practice, this is another reason why my self-practice is very, very keen. Like, I have to meditate between each client that I see.
I can understand. There's so much that goes into this.
Yes, absolutely.
So much.
Yeah.
It's something like they do with mediums, with spirits.
Yes.
When they contact them, it's like I had a couple of people say to me, very draining, because I'm trying to contact them and get the energy into my body,
right.
And everything.
So, my favorite scene from Ghost is when Whoopi Goldberg finally does hear all of them, and they're surrounding her with all of those voices, and they're all trying to say the same thing at once. And she's like, guys.
I want to see that movie again.
It's a great film. It's a fantastic
film. It's a wonderful film.
And it's what a great lesson of be careful what you wish for, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's really, if you're going to open yourself up there, you're asking for it.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Self-control is definitely very key in all of this.
Okay.
So, anyways,
with the different divisions of
division, there's Karuna Reiki, which is a little bit earlier than it's earlier than Holy Fire. It's later than Karuna. Also developed by William Lee Rand as well. Karuna kind of looks at energy healing in terms of trauma-based healing. So trauma from childhood trauma, sexual trauma, past life trauma. So trauma, like in your kind of like in the from the very depths of your energy system, like things that have been lingering with you for so long that it needs to be let go. So
and we say, I'm going to forget. The past is the past. The baggage is the baggage, but it creeps up every so often.
Absolutely.
People.
I mean, it's what's fascinating to me reading psychology articles too is woman gets raped, and suddenly goes physically blind. And there's no reason for her to go blind, but her brain can't cope with what happens. So as a self-defense,
So the
it
fear
blinded
does
her.
that too? The fear could put the
blind-
block
yes,
just
it
like
put a
that.
block just like that. It's very, very interesting how that happens, right? So that's Karuna Reiki. Then I have Sekhem Krem. Sekhem Krem I learned actually at the same time as Reiki when I was about 13. Same time I was learning crystals healing as well.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah.
At 13, were you
At
doing
13.
some of this too?
Oh yes, I was doing all of this at 13. But it's
Did you do it with your family? I mean, you were
I did
13.
it with my dad. No, I did it with my dad. Not so much my brother. My brother was already playing basketball at that age,
Right.
so he was thinking I probably lost my mind at that point. But, my mom was very supportive. She thought it was a great idea for me to continue this kind of
How
practice.
about your friends?
So
What did they think?
they I don't know. They
Didn't
accepted it.
Didn't they say, "Oh, try it on me" or anything like
They
that?
did. They totally did. They totally asked me to try it on them. They all loved it. I've only received, I mean, it's school. You're going to receive those bad comments from the boys or from the girls that think you're absolutely crazy. But I think if I chose anything in life, if I was a bookworm, they'd say that. If I was a cheerleader, they'd say that. You know.
But how about the other families? How did they feel about it?
My family, my Chinese family, I'll say my Chinese family, I have very few American relatives. So a lot of them probably didn't even know I was doing this until I really turned this into a profession of mine. But my Chinese family kind of knew I was into it, but didn't really know how far I went into it. So now reminding that it's a very conservative culture, right? So when I finally broke the news to my grandmother, which was only like about 5-6 years ago, that I was going to do this as a profession, and I've actually been doing this since I was a kid, her first response of, "You can't possibly make money out of that." So that was really like, she was kind of horrified, kind of freaking out, and she heard me doing it from a relative of mine because I was creating my practice. I created the website. One of my uncles saw it and told her, "Look at your granddaughter. She's amazing." But she wasn't so keen on it whatsoever.
Do you know why? Because I think, don't you think so? This was done so many times in the family. She thinks nothing of it.
Yeah.
That's why it's nothing to do, but you're going to make a vocation of it. Oh, this is nothing. We do it all the time.
Yeah, she probably thought this was a great hobby or something like that. But it wasn't until like I turned it to profession that I thought, okay, I need to sit her down and tell her this really is what I'm going to do with my life. So, but eventually she got very sick. She fractured her spine. She was already in her late 80s. Her heart condition was getting worse and worse.
Did you try anything on her?
She asked me to try Reiki healing on her, and she loved it. She fell asleep immediately, which was great because she was having trouble sleeping anyway. She would stay up for hours and hours not being able to sleep.
Oh, with people you working on who can't sleep, don't have to take the medication.
So I had somebody ask me this recently, like, what are the 4 most popular things in my office, right? And insomnia is definitely one of them. So
a lot of people have that.
A lot of people have that, and I will say 70% of my clients will fall asleep within at least 10 minutes into the session. Now, that's not their first session with me because they're getting to know me, I'm getting to know them. You know, there's a type of nervousness about meeting each other first time, getting to know each other. Second session, definitely they will start falling asleep. Like they're just at ease. They get very like, so I will, if it's that type of person, I'll probably start out the conversation saying I'm a life coach and a Reiki practitioner. Because they understand life coach. Right? They understand that. Then when they ask, oh, what's Reiki? It's like, oh, it's a complementary thing to life coaching. And then I kind of ease them into it. So yeah, it's a very funny question.
Okay.
Yeah.
How